So he actually says that's why it's time to put forward a motion, and they changed it to that's why we need to put forward a motion. And those words came right after the network's reporter read from a script that said there are questions about dental care's future with the non-confidence motion looming. So questions about dental care's future. That's why we need to put forward a motion. It makes it very clear that it seems like they're putting forward a motion because of the questions with dental care's future, which is absolutely not what's happening. And it's a sentence he never said. He said that's why it's time to put forward a motion for a carbon tax election. So it's insane. They completely changed what he was saying and presented it as though he was doing a non-confidence motion in the government for an entirely different reason.
Yeah, well,
would you put it past? Thank God they were fired. But like, you understand why I have a sign on my wall that says "Go FU News." Hello. Thank you for being here.
Anytime.
It's nice to see you again.
You fed me donuts, so I came back.
When did I give you donuts?
Well, those little Jane things. They were,
Oh, those.
they're like pockets of delicious, delicious sugar.
Mennonites are good at creating
Oh my God,
desserts.
so good.
Yeah.
They must all have diabetes. So delicious. Either they have some form of willpower, which I do not have.
Mennonites must have willpower because they see us going by in cars and continue to use horse and buggy to get around. So
That's true.
we were driving by some the other day, and I was like, I wonder what the kids in there think when they see all these cars whizzing by. Like, why are we doing it this way?
Well, they think we're wrong.
I'm sure and their parents will rapidly explain to them how wrong we are and how this all leads to like degeneracy and debauchery.
Which, spoiler,
not too far wrong on that. Yeah. So yeah, it's been a long time since we did one of these. How have you been?
Good. Yeah. Pretty good. I mean, we're about to get snow, so it's going to go from dead summer to snow.
We've had a ridiculously warm fall. It's amazing.
It's been nice.
And instead of just being able to enjoy it, we have to be pestered with constant, like, this is climate change's fault. Don't you hate this warm fall?
This horribleness that is climate change, where you're not freezing your balls off in October.
But I was looking at the, what is it, like the La Nina and El Nino forecasts.
Is that La Nina?
So, like, yeah, one means it gets warmer, one means it gets colder. So the next winter is projected to be colder than usual because of I think it's the El Nino or whatever.
That sucks. Isn't it climate change, though?
It is, well, here's the thing. It is climate change, and we can fix it by paying more taxes. So as soon as we all fork over enough, the forest fires will stop.
Paying, like, is this like an extortion racket where
the climate change is literally holding us hostage? Like, it's a nice planet you got there. Shame if the climate changed.
As soon as they get enough,
fork it over.
They're like, okay, you're under our protection now, huh?
Yeah, you can use as much carbon as you want.
This guy. Yeah, it's cool. All right, so yeah, that's good to know.
And like, we probably already got a label on this video. I don't want to be like Mr. Climate Change guy, but I do see like charts circulating online, and I haven't looked into it enough. So maybe this is misinformation. Maybe I'm about to spread some misinformation.
You're about to be put in jail.
But like, yes, it's like surely the levels of carbon in the atmosphere have changed wildly over time, even before the industrialization of humans. So
they did. There was something I keep saying read, but I just watched it on a show where they were saying that the carbon levels were getting so low that at some point the plants couldn't have survived. So we were almost at the point where plants were
You need a certain amount of like carbon dioxide in the atmosphere because it turns out plants actually breathe that in. They use that.
Apparently, because we've raised the carbon higher, which
there's more plant growth.
There's more plant.
Yeah,
because they've been able to.
Well, that's what I thought.
Jordan Peter said something about they're able to open their breathing, however plants breathe. It's more efficient at whatever level we're at now.
Well, wasn't it the case that like in the Cretaceous period or whatever, plants were massive compared to now because there was so much carbon dioxide.
Volkswagen and because there's so much oxygen, there was so much different stuff. The climate was different. It might have even changed.
Are you implying that the climate changed, but when humans weren't?
I did.
Driving around in cars and stuff.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't, keep an eye and make sure we're not really fucking up the planet because we could very well be fucking it all up. But I think when you put your when you're incentivizing people to basically just keep pushing the same agenda, even without evidence, that you get to where we are now. So it's like it could very well be real, it could very well be a problem, but you've made it so that I am so distrustful of everything you say that I have to push back.
Well, yeah, that's a key part of the issue. And like for me, I'm all on board with a one world effort to like keep the global climate in a nicely livable range. Like that to me is like, why would anyone be against that? Everyone on this planet, like we all need this planet to live right now. We're not a multiplanetary species right now. So it's like everyone on this planet should be on board with the idea of, hey, let's make sure things stay in control and like we can continue to live here. But all of like behind that noble goal, or in front of it rather, you have all of these people who are disingenuous in what they say because they have personal agendas. They want to line their pockets with all the money that's flowing around. And also it doesn't make sense for Canada to be going above and beyond to affect the climate when India and China exist and continue to like...
We're a beacon. We're an example. They're going to see us.
Yeah, that's such a nonsense story. Like we're less than like, a drop in the bucket.
The people that are barely surviving now are going to be like, you know what? Those poor Canadians, they're slightly suffering now. Let's basically kill ourselves so that we can do the same.
Because yes, and until we see, you know, Canada is not the one who needs to be leading the charge here. It is India and China. And when they start leading the charge and they set the example, because that's what's actually going to have the difference, then we can think about it. But we shouldn't be crippling ourselves and our economy and our citizenry with higher prices than they would otherwise be paying to make a couple of out-of-touch elites in Ottawa feel good about themselves because they're doing well financially, so they have time to worry about these boutique issues.
Yeah, well, like, if our tax dollars were going to something that was worthwhile and you could see it and be like, wow, they'd run it so efficiently and everything is, they're using our money so well, you'd be like, okay, maybe you could understand that. But there's so much waste and corruption and everything that you're just like, let me spend that money and I'll spend it I'll spend it much more wisely than you would.
Yeah, and so
it's not even a question. Whose money are you going to spend more wisely? Your own or someone who gives you some money?
Yeah, well, there's no accountability, and then there's even less accountability because they outsource everything to consultants and pay like the tens of millions of dollars, increasing by many times the amount that the Harper government ever used to pay to like McKinsey and firms like that.
But it is his fault. Whatever issues we have.
Yeah, and so, but to your point about the corruption and the money is just now we have Parliament ground to a halt over the refusal to the government's refusal to release these documents pertaining to this like green slush fund, and.
Tim, you're going to violate their charter rights.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
yes. How they're spending the money.
It was claimed that charter rights could be violated. I guess the government's charter rights.
I don't know.
I don't understand.
It's got to be the people inside the government because I guess they're people too. But like.
But all of a sudden, the Liberals care about the charter. Isn't that funny? Funny how that goes, eh?
I mean, they've seen the error of their ways, Tim. They realize that when you trample on the charter rights to be transparent with government.
Oh my God, it's incredible how much they are exactly what they pretend not to be and like fight against. So I tweeted this the other day. I just finished reading this book by Paul Wells. It's called Justin Trudeau on the Ropes or something. Yeah, that's right. I ex-posted it or whatever. So he's journalist, been around for a long time, and what was like the thing I ex-posted was like there's many examples in that book of Trudeau early on, before becoming prime minister, denouncing essentially what he has become and what he is currently. Like his main gripe against Harper's government was his inability to work with or even like understand people with a different ideological predisposition. Well, that describes his government and his current approach to a T. Like he thinks conservatives are evil people who are going to destroy the country.
Do you think he believes that though, or do you think he's just a narcissist who likes to line his pockets? Because I don't know if you can actually believe these.
No, I think he is fully delusional in that he believes, like, I think he has a bit of a God complex. Like, he believes
that's true.
He is the one who will save Canada. That's why he refuses to leave, because he still thinks that, like, he is the only one who can do it. Now, interestingly, he probably is the only one who stands any sort of a chance leading the Liberal Party in the next election because of all of the circumstances.
Really? You don't think if
think about it. If he left now, would the Liberals do better or worse in the election?
Better. I would guarantee you better.
Why? Because who are they replacing him with?
It doesn't matter.
No, but it does.
They could replace him with.
Christian Freeland is even more like as unlikable as Trudeau.
Right. You get rid of all these assholes that everyone has seen in their life.
Okay, so but this is my point. Who are you replacing them with? And then so now you have a nobody. Like
you have a nobody, and a nobody will do better. I'm not saying they'll win, but they'll do better. Because people are sick.
I
of
don't
this
think
guy.
there's a guarantee of that.
People are like, this guy, you can't believe a word he says. Not a single thing he says isn't. Everything he says is for himself, and there's nothing he says that's when he says he's doing this to help Canadians. It's like, show me the record over the last 9 years of you helping.
Yeah, well, it's
Canadians
obviously that he's lying.
Other than immigration that aren't actually Canadians yet that you're trying to make Canadians, so you can say we help Canadians. Like
he's helping people who he would like to become Canadians. Yeah.
Like,
Well, the only promise he ever really fulfilled, as far as I'm concerned, was like the marijuana legalization. Well, as far as the ones, no, I'm sure he fulfilled other ones, but there's like, as far as what he campaigned on in 2015, it was electoral reform.
Yeah, which he did immediately.
Abolishing the Senate.
Which he did immediately.
No. And legalizing pot. Basically, he
still
also.
needs to
Oh,
get that
sorry.
done,
He
too.
also promised to run deficits, which he did. He kept that
that,
promise,
that's
but he promised to balance the budget by
No,
2019.
He didn't promise to balance the budget. He promised they would balance.
He promised the budget would balance out. No, but he did say modest deficits and then returning to a balanced budget by 2019, which was before COVID. And then when they didn't balance it and were asked about it, they were like, "Oh, we couldn't because of COVID." It was like 2019 was before COVID, but I digress.
Yeah, but interest rates are all-time historic lows.
Historic lows, Glenn. Historic. So yes, there's an insane amount of corruption and grifting and lining of pockets with the whole green agenda, which is my issue with it. My issue is not with the noble goal of keeping the earth a livable place for all humans. Who would be against that?
I'm against it. I
Like-
want us all to burn in a fiery.
Like with most of the issues, I'm almost always aligned with the left on their stated goal, and I'm almost always opposed on their solutions, their suggested ways of implementing this. It's like, should everyone have enough to eat? Yes, great, sounds good. How should we do it? Socialism for all? No, I mean maybe not.
Maybe go a little bit socialism, but yeah, we go on total socialism. At which point it becomes communism.
Right. And it's so funny because like every time I think about like how they try to implement communism or in Russia and all of the breakdowns that started happening, it's like all of the problems that you encounter are solved by capitalism.
Yeah.
Like because when you have fixed prices, now you have somebody who's arbitrarily trying to decide what everything's worth. But you know what the best mechanism for deciding what everything's worth is? The fucking market.
So we're at the other point now where you have markets that have been so overtaken by singular companies that they're monopolies. So you have the reverse problem, right? You're basically having the bad parts of communism are now starting to happen with capitalism because it's not really capitalism anymore. It's crony capitalism.
Yes,
where
monopolies are not good.
they are able to actually just force the markets to do whatever they want, just like communism. You force the market to do whatever you want, right? It's the same. It's happening now, but it's not because of the. It's because of mostly because of the power that these companies have, as opposed to the inability to like see what's going to happen if you price fix something, right? Like people are like, if we say that wheat is, or if we say that milk is like stuck at $1, there's going to be no other problems. It's just everyone will be happy because they're all getting.
Why shouldn't we make things cheaper? Let's just make everything cheaper.
Yeah. So you have that standpoint for communism, and then you have where you get to the monopolies where they're like, we're going to make everything $10 because we can, because nobody can stop us, and you have almost like a mirror problem with it. So you can't say capitalism solves everything because
I think true free capitalism, and that's not to say that like there should be no restrictions on the market, because I'm not like a free market purist in that sense. Like there's I think with most things it lands on a sliding scale, and there's like you have your two extremes on either end, like complete freedom or no freedom, and either one I think you're gonna have problems with.
That's why the left and the right are both needed in a society. You can't just have one of them.
Absolutely. And you need like a healthy.
Pushing hard to be like, hey, the left right now is pushing hard to be like, hey, if you're right in any way, put them in jail.
Right.
And it's like you need the counterbalance between the two. You can't just be. And then obviously you had in Germany a little bit of an opposite thing where it's like, hey, put them in jail if they're left thinking. Although it's interesting that we think about like the Nazis being right wing when they were socialists, right? They're the
I always thought that.
It's strange.
That was curious.
It's weird. It's more of the way we picture left and right as opposed to.
I think that's like the nationalism part is like the right.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like either way. You don't want two extremes. You want to balance it. And right now we're doing a terrible job of balancing it. And it's like
exactly. And you can see it in the States and in our politics. Like everything's more polarized. And I think I've mentioned it before. Like if you look at the amount of bipartisan support that bills had in the United States Congress and over the decades, like there used to be all sorts of people crossing the aisle, and with each successive decade over the past like 50, 60 years, it's just less and less and less, to the point where now it's completely ossified and people, like, nobody crosses the aisle for votes anymore.
I think a lot of that has to do with like the social media, how it's basically made us all go crazy, where it's like you're able to be in your one little bubble, and then like it just reinforces that.
Yeah.
And you're like, anybody who's outside that bubble is just.
Which is why, like, I try to see what lefties are saying on X, Twitter, because I want to know their crazy ideas.
It's slightly different for us being Canadian and being on the right side, or I don't even think I'm right. I'm more centrist than anything.
Well, me too, but they keep pushing us like we're on the right because they go so far left, like a classical liberal.
We get to see the lefties because our media is completely left biased. We
don't
have a Fox.
Yeah.
Who's our Fox?
That's true. You gotta like search. Well, Rebel News, I guess, but you gotta like search to find them.
You have to search to find them. That's new media. I'm talking about like just the normal stuff you get inundated with is all. So we get both. We see the views of the other ones and we can question them. Whereas like you get in these bubbles on the left and then they can't even fathom that someone might be opposed to their ideas. Like they just.
It doesn't even cross their mind. Yeah. Well, it's like.
And they're just like if anybody even has a sniff of opposition to what you're thinking, it's like kill them. Burn them with fire.
Well, and the prime example was the Matt Walsh's new movie, Am I Racist?
I haven't seen that yet.
So I haven't seen it yet. I'm definitely going to watch it. But I've seen him do a bunch of different videos on it, talking about it online. And the one scene, they get Robin DiAngelo to do an interview with him. And she's the author of the White Fragility book. So she's basically like the Pope of wokeness. Yeah. And they
she's the patron saint of white guilt.
Right. And so hilariously, like Matt Walsh has over like I think it's like 2 or 3 million subscribers on YouTube. Right. What is a Woman was like a cultural like moment. He's pretty well known at this point. And especially as like and he's like one of the main opponents of her entire worldview and ideology. So it was like you'd think she might have heard of him or know what his face is at least, but the fact that he was able to he got her to pay cash reparations to his black producer sitting in the room. Like,
well, I mean, you got to put up or shut up.
It was so anyway. I definitely can't wait to watch that.
I can't believe that got a theatrical release. Like, that's
good for them. Yeah.
So that's interesting about that. The SCV, that slush fund scandal.
Yeah.
So, what are they saying? I don't quite understand the scandal yet because I haven't really been watching the news. Is it like something about they were just giving all their money to liberal insiders?
Yeah, as far as I understand it, so there was a fund with many millions of dollars created in order to fund like green initiatives. That's always what they say,
That's
right?
What they say.
And then lots of the money ended up going to the friends of liberals, or like they were they were attached to these companies who were getting this money. Like we can look it up more specifically.
Even the speaker has now, because of the corruption, has had to stop Parliament or something. And that's how I understand it. It's like until we get to the bottom of this, we can't actually. This government can't further any more motions, kind of thing. And they're basically like, yeah, we can't give you those documents because, well, if they weren't going to incriminate you, you'd give them up, right, immediately. But they're saying, no, we can't give you these documents that tell us who we gave the money to, right? I'm assuming that's what it's saying.
I'll just read this first couple lines here of this article. Hopefully straighten it out. RCMP says there are ongoing investigations into Green Slush Fund as House has ground to a halt. They did not specify who or what the RCMP was investigating in relation to SDTC, which is the slush fund. So let's see. 2 months after telling MPs that the RCMP had not found any evidence of criminal wrongdoing surrounding the so-called Green Slush Fund, RCMP Commissioner now says there are ongoing investigations. Made the comment to reporters on Thursday after the National Post asked if the RCMP had concerns about receiving documents on the government fund officially known as Sustainable Development Technology Canada. So he says the investigation is ongoing. I'll limit my comments. And the National Post was unable to find any committee transcript going back to the spring in which they confirmed a police investigation into the fund.
But it's my understanding that because they've shut down government now, because they don't want to be transparent with who they gave the money to, the Liberals are now basically saying you're trampling on our charter rights to keep this information secret?
Yes, okay, here's the information. So, political drama regarding access to the SDTC documents is also threatening to bog down the House of Commons indefinitely. On September 27th, House Speaker Greg Fergus ruled that the government appeared to have violated the vast powers of the Commons when it failed to surrender all unredacted records on SDTC so they could be provided to the RCMP, as ordered by MPs on June 10th. Quote, the House has clearly ordered the production of certain documents, and that order has clearly not been fully complied with. Unquote, Fergus said. Since then, MPs have debated what to do next, with Conservatives arguing that the government should fork over all records. The NDP and Bloc Québécois support the suggestion that the issue be studied in a Commons committee. The Liberals have argued that the order is an unacceptable blurring of the lines between the legislative and judicial branches and a potential violation of Canadians' charter rights. Since debates over MPs' privilege supersede virtually any other issue in the House of Commons, Conservative House Leader Andrew Scheer said in an interview that the House will ground to a halt for the foreseeable future. Quote, we want the original production order respected, end quote, Scheer said. Unfortunately, the government has refused, and so we want the documents handed over. They want to bury this in committee. They want this to be punted down and spend months out of the main focus of Parliament, he added. Government House Leader Karina Gould accused the Conservatives of, quote, trying to muck up Parliament with the ongoing debate. She reiterated her charge that the June 10 motion was an abuse of Parliament's power. So I guess that's what's going on.
Okay, so but if you have documents with a fund that you've been using to give money to people, why is that not allowed to be given? Like, why can't we see that?
Yeah, I don't clearly understand.
That doesn't make any sense. Like, isn't the whole point of the government, isn't the whole point of them spending money to be transparent about how they spend it? I know they're not, but why wouldn't you at least say, hey, like, why wouldn't the opposition say, hey, what are you hiding here? Like, yeah, they're hiding something.
The fact that you're trying to hide something is all we need to know. It means there's something there to hide. So fork them over and let's get to the bottom of this. Right. Like, I don't understand how
they always seem to have these scandals and they never stick. It's just insane.
The order is an unacceptable blur. So their argument is the order to produce these documents is an unacceptable blurring of the lines between the legislative and judicial branches. So is she saying that because an investigation is ongoing, they're trying to interfere using the legislative branch of government in something that should be the jurisdiction of the judicial branch of government?
I think what they're saying is that the MPs, what's that thing where they have confidentiality? They always use it.
Parliamentary privilege?
Whatever the thing is where they're allowed to not disclose things. It's like maybe it's the privilege, where it's like they have the ability to just keep everything secret because it's part of whatever their is it you know what I'm saying? I'm
not certain what you're saying. So
they always use it. It's like constantly they're like, well, that's privilege, so we don't have to give it to you. We just give it to you completely redacted, and it's like.
Oh no, that's always because it would compromise national security. That's what they say.
Is that what they say? So is this going to compromise national security?
Or
Green slush fund?
Well, it's like it would. I guess.
See, this confuses me so much. Like, it's like the scandal makes no sense. Like, they're either hiding something or they're not. Just give the fucking documents. There's no need to talk about your chartered rights. What chartered rights? I'm so confused.
At the end of the day, the government should have the ability to compel the production of documents with regards to how taxpayer money was spent.
I agree.
And so I think
who wouldn't agree with that?
I think everything else is just smoke and mirrors, trying to hide this and make it go away.
If it's maybe to if it's government money spent or taxpayer money spent on military stuff, maybe you don't get all the documents or you don't get them all unredacted.
Yeah, because
slush fund.
Exactly, right? You don't want the enemy to be to be able to easily see where all of your military stuff is coming from and all that.
Right. Yeah. But a green slush fund. What are you is this like the whole what's her name? Are you doing green tanks and green grenades?
Greta Thunberg. We must get vegan hand grenades and biodegradable missiles. Yes. This will help all humankind. How dare you not use biodegradable missiles?
So I'm so confused as to how they can take something that's so obvious, like, hey, show us the documents, and turn it into, this is a chartered rights problem. It's like, and you know what?
Oh, and all of a sudden they care about the charter.
They care about chartered rights. It's like, okay.
Oh,
what?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just there's scandal. This government has so many scandals, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, and it's, to me it's weird that the opposition isn't like, doesn't blatantly make it like, hey,
it's too
got
many.
something to hide. Show us. It's like it's always some weird.
Well, that is what they're trying to
That's
do. That's what they're trying to do right now.
Like, oh, it feels like there's a bubble of the people that are in government that just are completely, they're just out to lunch. They're not even close to Canadians anymore. Like even the opposition and stuff. I'm just like, oh, I don't know. I'm so tired of all the corruption and all of the.
Yeah, well, it makes me
and like it's like oh.
It makes me happy to think about how many liberals will be out of a job after the next election.
Yes. I'm just so afraid that it's just going to go right back to the status quo.
Unfortunately, it might. Yeah, yeah.
I think we'll be here in 2 years just yelling about
the Conservatives. Yeah.
The Conservatives.
Well, there's definitely stuff that they're going to do that we're not going to like, and they're not talking about that stuff right now.
Yes. Keeping that. Maybe they'll fix maybe they'll do government reform like Trudeau said he was going to do 9 years ago. Right?
I think the worst case scenario for me is that the Conservatives act too much like liberals.
Yes. Remember when the last election?
Like Aaron O'Toole.
And Aaron O'Toole
he was being a liberal. It was very weird.
Weird. Yeah, it was like we believe in everything they believe. Vote for us.
Yeah.
What? That's not what you want to do, you idiot. It's almost like they planted him there on purpose. Like the liberals got him in there.
Yeah. Well, it's like how they tried to do with Jean Charest and the Conservative leadership nomination. It's like Jean Charest, all of a sudden, I'm going to lead the federal Conservatives. Like, wait, aren't you a liberal?
Yeah.
He literally was the head of the Quebec Liberal Party.
Just don't think about that.
Forget about that. Oh man, that was such a joke. I remember when he launched his leadership campaign. Okay, I'm not 40 or 50 years old, but I'm like.
Hey.
I'm pretty interested in politics and have been like following it decently for a few years. I'm more interested than the average person and more in tune than the average person. And when Jean Charest was like, I'm going to run for the leadership for the Conservatives, my first question was, who is this guy? Like, where has he been? What's he like? What? Who are you?
New fresh face.
Like,
out of nowhere.
I had to look him up, and then I was like, oh, he's a liberal. What? Like what?
Trump was a Democrat for the longest time, so you can change.
You can change, but it did not seem like he had. As like, because the stuff he was saying is like, do you know the climate in the country right now? Like, do you know what's happening? This is what always blows me away. Is like when I'll watch like occasionally like some of the mainstream media stuff. I watched a bit of Peter Mansbridge's podcast the other day, which is also no, it's too high. It's also because he has a Sirius XM radio show, and then they also put it on YouTube. So I watched one of it the other day, and I watched a bit of CBC News the other day, and like sometimes they seem to understand what's happening, sort of, but then other times when they're talking about something, as like my understanding of it is so drastically different. Like we're not even on the same universe.
It's the whole ecosystem bubble.
Yeah.
Where they just can't even consider other people's viewpoints. It's just like, no, this is how it is.
And it's just weird to listen to because it's like, wait, that's what you think? We think? Like, because they'll be talking about like why conservatives did a thing, and I was like, I can't speak for everybody who is going to vote conservative, but it's like that's not my thought process at all.
I agree with the notion, not because of the reason that you're giving.
It's like the reasons that they come up with for why or how conservatives operate. Again, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, it's like, no, you guys don't understand how my brain works at all.
Like, how did you get from A to B? Who knows? Yeah, it's a wild world we're living in, and AI's gonna, like, when AI comes, and like you saw the Greta thing we just watched.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like that times a million, but it's actually like you can't. It's gonna blur the.
I have to play it for the podcast so that people know what we're talking about because it's so funny.
Well, they're definitely gonna come up with some like laws that basically say when it comes to politics you can't create. Like,
dude, they tried to. So Gavin Newsom in California already tried to do that. Made a law that because Elon Musk posted this like parody video using, I think it was like Biden's voice or something, and then it was saying how like corrupt or incompetent he was, and then so Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, made a law saying like that's illegal, but it was already struck down as unconstitutional.
Well, that's good for them, but not in Canada. Do you think that's gonna fly here? They're gonna let that go here in UK. They're going to start passing all these laws. It's going to be wild. We're so screwed.
Yeah, I mean, looking at what's happening in the UK is so frightening. Like people, I think one guy got jail time for just commenting under a video like savages or something. Like he got like jail time. Yeah. Oh my god.
Much like when Poilievre called the guy a dirtbag.
Poilievre. That was insane. Like anyone objecting to somebody calling a person who shot a cop a dirtbag.
A felon out on bail.
That he's out on bail. Like he's not even. Yeah. Don't even. That's insane. So Pierre. For anyone who doesn't know, Pierre called him a dirtbag in the House of Commons, and then a Liberal MP objected to it. Like that's a constituent.
That's one of our constituents.
Yeah,
I'm talking a lot like Jordan Peterson. All of a sudden,
like you guys lost the plot entirely, man.
Yeah.
Like
I wouldn't be calling my constituents.
Oh my
a
lord!
dirtbag, even if they committed a whole bunch of crimes, got out on bail, and then shot a policeman in the stomach.
I think
may or may not live.
Yeah, so it's like this weird fundamental premise of leftism is that nobody at any time can ever be held accountable for their actions ever unless you're white. And then you do something, and then they say that's white supremacy. But but if you're like, I guess if you're poor enough, and then you do something bad, then that supersedes it because like you're a victim of your environment. No one can ever be held responsible for their actions. Anyway, okay, I found the video. So here's the video, the AI video with the Greta Thunberg talking about sustainable warfare. Listen to this.
War is always bad, specifically for the planet. If we want to continue fighting battles like environmentally conscious humans, we must make the change to sustainable tanks and weaponry. There are so many new concepts for battery-powered fighter jets that can carry many more missiles, biodegradable missiles, of course. Something literally everybody can do to stop this nonsense is, for example, block the roads to gardens and farms so the plants don't get overrun by these heavy tanks. Hand grenades, very important.
So important.
If you use hand grenades, please use vegan grenades. No animal should have to give their life for all this mayhem and chaos. They have a special sticker on them. You really can't miss them in the grenade market or wherever you buy them. Yeah.
She makes a lot of good points there.
You know what? If we're gonna be throwing hand grenades everywhere anyway, I mean, it might as well be the.
I feel a lot better if my hand grenade didn't hurt an animal before it hurt.
So
a human.
I'm not certain, but I'm pretty sure that was fake.
No,
I don't think she.
real.
I don't think she actually said that stuff.
I think we all agree with what she said, so it's got to be real.
I mean, based on some of the other stuff she said, she very well could have. I believe she used to be the climate change person, and she was recently arrested for like protesting Israel or something. Yeah. So it's weird how that shifts.
It's very fluid.
Funny.
It's just kind of in and out of whatever is most recent in people's mind. She kind of just runs to.
How do you go from the climate change zealot to like, fuck Israel?
People change. But yeah, it's that whole AI thing. They're gonna come down hard on that because you can see it right now. If there's some kind of fake, they tried that with the U.S. thing where we were calling Biden stuff fake. What were they calling it? Fake?
Cheap fakes?
Cheap fakes? And it was like...
It was just, no, those are just videos of Biden.
Those are just literally videos of Biden.
Cheap fakes.
Like, they tried to create a new term.
Fucking Ministry of
Instead
Truth.
of deep fakes, cheap fakes, but they're actually just real. So they're going to come down hard on that shit. I think there's going to be all kinds of legislation, and we're in a few, like in 2 years, maybe even like 1 year, it's going to be so hard to tell if somebody said something for real or it's fake. Like you can even make the images on like Grok you were showing me. These images can be just made up instantly. It's like, wow, this it's opened the playing field for like anyone to do anything. And eventually there's going to be bad players that are like, hey, let's make a video of, I don't know, this politician saying something crazy.
Yeah, well, it's gotten to the point now where you can't really trust what you see anymore. But with regards to the politician thing, so like most of the mainstream AI video generation tools that are out there right now will not allow you to do that. So
really?
Danny Polishchuk, the comedian, he had a couple videos go viral. One of them being Trudeau's appearance on Colbert. He used AI to doctor it to make Trudeau say like, yeah, everyone hates me, and like this was quite funny. He's well done. But I know because I was listening to the Boyscast podcast, like. He had to find a lesser known tool that somebody like gave him a tip about that would actually allow him to manipulate politicians' voices.
It's going to go to, there's going to be, because it's an arms race, right? There'll always be a way to get around it.
Probably.
So there's just going to be legislation.
Like,
it just says you do that, you're going to jail.
The internet in general has just been getting so much less open, right? Like I remember 10 years ago, we thought like, or maybe 15, like, oh, you know, there will never be anything such as there won't be ever censorship on the internet. Like that, how would that happen? No one could possibly do that.
I remember when they were like, when YouTube was like, Alex Jones were taking down this one video, and I was like, holy shit.
It's the beginning of the end.
This is crazy that they're doing this censoring. And now it's like, oh, they've taken down a few videos. You don't even think about it. It's just like, oh yeah, that's normal. It's just how it is. You know, they just take down videos.
Yeah, but...
Just censor everything. Who cares?
But it got to the point where like now alternatives have been created like Rumble and with Elon Musk
Do
buying.
you use Rumble though?
I do upload my videos to Rumble. Yeah.
So the Rumble is great, but the advertisements I see on it are just like, ooh. It's basically like if you've partaken in the whole, if you've gone on corn websites in the past, I don't know how long, it's very similar in terms.
Yeah, but
of
I don't
vibe.
do it as much for like the. I get what you're saying, but like I put it on there because I want to know that there's a place where
Right. No,
my
it's-
videos aren't just going to get
It's
taken down
amazing that
randomly.
it's there.
Yeah.
It's just like there's something a bit like grubby about it. It feels a bit grubby, even though the content on it might just be completely fine. It's just
it doesn't have exactly as much polish as YouTube. It's just like slightly less
there's
polished.
it's like not mainstream. It's like you can tell it's like what do they call that, the culture, what's it called when it's different culture, counterculture,
like a parallel culture.
Yeah, it's like you can tell it's not being funded by the mainstream, which it's very good in terms of censorship, but it doesn't have the polish. It doesn't feel quite right. But like,
Well, yeah, I mean that makes sense. Google's got billions and billions of dollars behind them.
It's true.
Like,
And I don't expect
and
them
YouTube
to be,
has been iterating on its product for like 20 years or at least, right?
But when it's like every time I go and I watch a video on Rumble, it's like a new Temu ad. You can get like, this hair dryer for 86 cents, and you're like, this feels weird. I don't want a hair dryer that costs 86 cents. It would probably burn my house down. Like it feels strange. But anyways,
I guess I can't compare it to anything because I don't get ads on YouTube.
oh, you have premium,
I do have premium, but I would have ad block anyway.
but they got rid of that now.
It still works.
Does it work?
Of course.
I haven't updated mine, so I actually switched to Brave because it's like
Oh yeah, Brave.
it has a built-in
Brave's
thing.
good, yeah.
And it's just like I use that on my phone, so I started using it on my desktop, and I'm like, oh, it works.
Yeah, that
So,
works.
I think eventually I'm just gonna bite the bullet and pay whatever it is, the $20 a month, because it's an arms race, right? They're just gonna keep finding ways to block it and like to block your blocker.
Yeah,
So-
but also like premium lets you download stuff, and I like
Yeah.
that.
And I feel a little bad. It feels like when you're watching a video with an ad blocker, you're like not helping out.
You're not supporting the
You're not
creator.
supporting the
Yeah.
content that you're seeing. So it's like from that standpoint, I kind of feel like I gotta switch over. I gotta pay this horrible company money just so I can feel a little better. What's the price right now? It's like
I
15
think it's
bucks a
like
month.
12 or 14 bucks a month.
I should
yeah.
really be just doing that. Like it's kind of a dick move that I'm not, but
For the amount that I watch YouTube, like I get so much
yeah.
entertainment
Yeah.
from it. Like
That's what I mean. Like, and it's like, oh, am I hurting YouTube? No, you're hurting the content creators.
Exactly.
It's like, so I think
And
maybe
trust-
after this podcast, I'll actually sign up.
you do not get a lot of money for unless you're like getting millions of views. Because I haven't received, even though like people have given me a couple super chats, you have to get like $100
enough to
banked
get it, right?
before they even pay it out to you.
Yeah.
So I haven't had anything ever paid out to me yet.
It'll be a big day.
I get
You
like
can buy a Big Mac with it.
$80. Yeah.
Stupid. Went and bought a few Big Macs the other day. Oh my God, $57.
Yeah.
Fuck McDonald's. You're
Everything's-
supposed to be cheap.
Everything's crazy.
It's insane. And it's like, didn't they say something about like the McDonald's CEOs like, oh, we're losing the lower end market here? And it's like, yeah, because you're big.
Yeah.
It's $58.
Nobody can afford it. Yeah.
Like, of course. Like their traffic is down something like 12% or something, and it's like, so in order to keep revenue the same, they've just increased prices. It's like
But if you've ever done calculus, you know
Yeah.
that
your maximum is,
there is a point where that starts giving you diminishing returns.
so I think they're having trouble. And I've heard because they're essentially a real estate business, they're having a lot of trouble with the raised in rates and the increased prices of that. That's another big part that's hurting them. But I don't know. I haven't looked too much into it, but it makes sense to me.
Yeah, well, what did they do? They started making these like McCafe stores to compete with Starbucks, where they basically just sell coffee and like the microwavable like pastry things. So it's like, yeah, no, a couple of those popped up. Anyway,
I don't
digression. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention while you were here. So did you hear about the CTV editing the clip of Pierre Poilievre?
I heard about it, but I don't know enough about it.
Okay,
I know
so
that they did it, but I was like, I don't know what they did.
So basically, Pierre's always saying we need to call a carbon tax election, and he's always saying that's why they're trying to get an election. He's always relating it to the carbon tax.
So he was calling it a carbon tax election.
So there's
Which it kind of is. Like, People hate it so much that they're willing to like just be like, "Fuck you, get out of power." And
Well,
he's like, "We're gonna increase it on April 1st.
Yeah.
Nothing bad will happen to us."
It's clearly working because of the polls. You can look, but so he was talking to, I guess, reporters in Ottawa, and this was a week or two ago before the first non-confidence vote that they had in the House Commons.
There's been 2 now, right?
Yeah, there's been 2 that I know of, and basically. He said as part of his statement, that's why we need to. I'll get the exact wording on it, but it was basically like, this is why we need to put forward a motion for a carbon tax election or something like that. And in the way that CTV presented it on the television, they cut up what he had said and created a sentence that he never said, and then they edited it in a way where it seemed like he wanted to vote no confidence in the government because of their dental care plan. Which was incredibly misleading to say the least, but what's like really insidious.
We don't want to give people dental. Like they're trying to get people to get mad at him because he doesn't want to give people dental.
Right, which is odd, and that's not what's actually happening. But like the crazy thing is that it wasn't just like a bad edit where you missed out some context.
Yeah.
It was a fabricated sentence. They took parts from different sentences that he made, like that he said, and created a new sentence that he never said.
That's a cheap fake.
So you literally have the news doctoring footage, having a politician say a thing that he never said, which is incredibly scary. And then rather than like come out and admit that when they were called out, CTV said, it
was just one of our
we apologize for the misrepresentation or whatever. It's like, it wasn't a misrepresentation. It was a fabrication.
Didn't they like fire 2 people because of that?
And then they said that 2 people got fired, yeah.
Well, at least some heads rolled. Like,
so,
who thinks that's okay?
Yeah,
like,
it's
come on.
incredible. And then, like, so you already there's very little trust in the media because of many valid and legitimate reasons. And then you put this on top, and then the attempted defense of this by liberals is as though it's no big deal is. That's disgusting.
Well, like CTV News is where I got my news for the longest time before the pandemic, and I was like, CTV News was where I got my news, and then that's all I used. Now, since the pandemic, I use CTV News as like the benchmark for what the biased media is saying. Then I go to is it the Sun or it's the Sun, right?
Which one? For right or left?
For right. So it's the Sun.
Toronto Sun and like Post Media is more right-leaning, so
I go
National
to that one
Post
and I
and
read what
Toronto.
they're saying there, and they're always like, fuck Trudeau.
Yeah.
And then I go to the National Post, and I'm like, okay, this is all about business. So I try to get all 3
I mean,
there.
National Post is basically aligned with Toronto Sun. They're both Post Media. It's the same
basically
organization.
more like, hey, businesses are affected this way. It's all about business. So I'm like,
well, they also have like the Financial Post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of what I kind of go boop 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 into. So I get the full gamut of the crap that everyone's saying.
Yeah, I tend to agree with a lot of the opinion pieces I see in the National Post.
The National Post I like is because it's more business related, so you can actually kind of trust it more.
Yeah,
There's more of an actual. There's a benchmark where you're like, hey, this is affecting business people, and this is how it's affecting business people, as opposed to this is affecting liberals in their ivory tower, and this is what they think LGBTQ plus S237 G59 or whatever that community is. And it's.
I think you got them all.
Did I get them all? No, there's more coming.
Wait,
they just several more made as I said.
Hold on, they just added 3.
So yeah, it's. I like to get all 3, but CTV News used to be the benchmark, and I was like, oh, this is a good news station, and now it's a rag. It's like, but I think they see that the writing's on the wall where their gravy train's leaving with Trudeau being so unpopular that they're kind of swinging a little bit. Every once in a while they'll throw something in there. You're like, oh. That's not something you would have said about 3 months ago, so it's nice.
Well, it's funny how quickly the conversation can change on some things. Like I remember, like everything that's being said about immigration now. If you said that 17 months ago, you were labeled a racist bigot.
A horrible bigot, yes.
Yeah, so it is funny how that can shift. So here's exactly what happened with the CTV clip. In his scrum with reporters, Poilievre said, "quote That's why it's time to put forward a motion for a carbon tax election." End quote. On the CTV broadcast, Poilievre was heard saying, "quote That's why we need to put forward a motion," end quote, which is a different wording. So he actually says, that's why it's time to put forward a motion. And they changed it to, that's why we need to put forward a motion. And those words came right after the network's reporter read from a script that said there are, questions about dental care's future with the non-confidence motion looming. So, questions about dental care's future. That's why we need to put forward a motion. It makes it very clear that it seems like they're putting forward a motion because of the questions with dental care's future, which is absolutely not what's happening. And it's a sentence he never said. He said that's why it's time to put forward a motion for a carbon tax election. So it's insane. They completely changed what he was saying and presented it as though he was doing a non-confidence motion in the government for an entirely different reason.
Yeah, well...
Would you put it past? Thank God they were fired. But, you understand why I have a sign on my wall that says, "Go FU News."
No. Government-funded news. It makes sense.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Yeah, it's bad. And you really felt it after 2015. Like, you felt the change in the report. Like, by 2017, it was like, you were like, it's not right. This is weird. It's like everything, there's no pushback. It's all one side. And then by 2019, like just before the pandemic, you were like, holy shit. It's like, they must be paying, like Trudeau must be bringing like buckets of gold to them and just showering them with money because they're not saying a goddamn a bad thing about these horrible things he's doing.
Well, I didn't even notice then because I was paying very little attention in 2019. I had just gotten a new job and I was like thrilled about that. I was like head down to my work, and then COVID hits, and then I start paying attention to what our subsidized media is saying, and then I was like, wait, I'm paying for you guys to tell me this?
Lies? Yeah.
Like, fuck that.
Yeah. And it was a ritual. Me and my wife would every night we'd go to bed after watching the National, which was just something you do. Like you get the news, and it's something we did for years and years and years. And then by 2019, you couldn't watch it anymore. You couldn't watch Colbert anymore. You couldn't. They were getting like everything had just shifted to where it was so. It just didn't make sense anymore. Like things like Colbert's character on the Colbert Report.
Yeah, I love that show.
Started to make more sense than the new Colbert, who was just like spouting crazy shit.
I used to really like him, and then he just
funny.
became unwatchable.
Yeah, and like you would watch that being like, the right wing are so stupid and crazy, right? And like you didn't quite see the shift that they were going so far to the left. I should go that way. And it was like, it's jarring. Like I remember I used to watch what the fuck was his name? Jim Jeffries.
Right.
Do you remember? And remember how like
he seemed to switch a lot.
He was like so like he was misogynist, but like he was funny.
It
like,
was funny.
It's funny. Like
his. I remember his first set that I saw that I thought made him famous was the one where he had the joke about taking his like challenged disabled friend to the brothel for the first time.
Yeah, so it was edgy, it was funny, but it had like a tinge of misogyny and whatever. So he got his own show that was basically like a daily show, but it was with Jim Jeffries. And, and it was so funny. But then like throughout like I want to say like 6 or 7 episodes, he just went so left all of a sudden. It was like this isn't who you are. Like you're saying stuff that isn't what you would ever say.
You think that's like the Hollywood influence?
I feel like it's the Hollywood influence. It's like if you're not saying these things, you're no longer having a show. And like we watched the first like 6 or 7 episodes and we're like, this is funny. And then the last like few we watched were like, it's so it's not funny anymore because it's just shitting on the beliefs. Like you're like, you're saying stuff that I think you think is funny, but it's like it's no longer even funny. Like it's like they lost their comedic edge because they no longer.
As soon as
they're being woke, you can't be woke funny.
Oh, exactly. There's that, and then it's like as soon as you try to like shoehorn an ideology into your comedy.
Yeah.
Especially if like you don't even truly believe
especially if your comedy is based on the reverse of that.
Exactly.
That was the thing. It was like, whoa, this is like jarring. Like you're completely different than you were 6 episodes ago.
And you can't be woke and funny at the same time.
Yeah, like
it's impossible.
It's like it's like antimatter. It just explodes when you try to do it. It's not good. So yeah, it's that around that time was so jarring. And then you had the COVID, and it was just like, okay, anybody who's still believing the mainstream media, they have their head in the sand and they're not paying attention. And it's like, okay, at this point, you have your 2 camps. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm gonna take that spray.
And and like the majority of it is older people because they're not online as much, and they stick with the media that they've known and trusted their entire life, which I understand. I get that. It makes sense. If you've trusted one source your whole life, and this source tells you to not trust anyone else, well, why would you stop trusting the source you've trusted your whole life?
Yeah, and then like it's so weird because it's like, and I think the Zoomers now, or the whatever you call the new kids, they don't listen to mainstream media.
The Doomers?
At all. The Doomers. They don't have, it's like, they get all of their information from like TikTok.
TikToks and like
That's
Minecraft.
Yeah. So it's such a, and apparently the women, it just shows you how powerful social media is. Apparently the girls growing up are super, super left, and the boys growing up are right.
Yeah,
but they're not super right. They're just right. Like it's wild how the echo chambers for one pushes you completely to the left, and the other one still tries to push you to the left, right? Like you can never really escape it. You're still getting a little bit.
Interestingly, it's like they might be self-selecting for like not having kids though, because the more left-wing you are, the less likely you are to have children, for many reasons.
So something like 50% of 30-year-olds today don't have kids, and 50% of them will never have kids. And it's like, whoa, that's a lot of people. It's a lot of not people now.
We have to start incentivizing the native population to have more children as a better solution than bringing immigrants constantly.
So the problem with that is I don't know if there's actually a solution for that, because you have all these Scandinavian countries that have been trying to like incentivize it, and you even have like countries like Russia that are like really incentivized.
Yeah, but Hungary succeeded in stopping the decline in their birth rate by saying, I believe it's if you have 3 or maybe 4 children,
you have no taxes,
no income tax.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And that worked?
I believe it stopped their decline. I don't know if it's reversed it, but it's at least stopped it.
Because it just, you get to a point where like life is so chaotic and crazy, and it's like you can't have more than 2 kids. Like it's just like,
well, if you also have to pay for a million things.
That's true too.
Yeah.
Like,
if you don't have to
afford it.
If you have a little bit of extra money, well then it might not be as
the
tough.
counter argument to that is the poor people have more kids. The poorer you are,
they manage it, but like also those kids aren't set up for as much success as they could be.
That's true. Maybe it is. I don't know.
I think there is going to be a correlation between socioeconomic class and success later in life.
But we don't have I don't know if we have the stats on that just yet, right? Like the current kids haven't really been growing up yet, right? Can you say that kids...
but we also know that there's a lot of things going on right now. We also know that like IQs and test scores are dropping.
Yeah, kids don't even know how to like spell anymore. They don't know how to write. They don't know how to do it. Yeah, it's wild.
They can't read an old-fashioned clock with hands. they can't read cursive or write cursive. That's not even taught anymore.
Yeah, they just teach like typing. No
Which I get it. That's more useful in today's day and age, but...
And we're the boomers at this point. Why don't you learn your cursive?
But it's like, no, but you can do both. We did both. There was a computer lab in my elementary school when I was 9 years old, 8 years old.
Is Carmen San Diego? We played that all the time.
You know, I've had computers in my school since like as long as I can remember. So we did both.
But they have computers in their hands since they're born.
I suppose that's true, but they shouldn't.
Like my son goes downstairs, and we don't even give him phones or anything a lot. I think he just gets it from looking at us. Like we literally don't let him touch a phone, touch a. What
are you talking about? When I would call you guys years ago, you'd be like, "Let me touch the big red button." You'd always want to touch the red button.
Right, but that's we're not giving him the phone.
Well, you're teaching them how it works.
Right, but we're not giving the phone being like, "Play on this for an hour," right? Like we're not letting him do that. But even then, he goes down to my monitor in the basement on my computer and is like,
oh, he's trying to do it like touchscreen.
Yeah. He's touching screen on it. You're like, that doesn't work, buddy. So like it's funny. Like they learn, like these kids, they pick it all up so quickly. Like it's not the same as when we grew up. It's not you can learn cursive and this together. It's like it's a brand new world.
No, but it is. Like I kind of see what you're saying, but like what? No, you can do both. You just have to.
You can, but
you just have to make it a priority. Exactly, right? And it's not. Instead, they're teaching the kids how to be genderqueer. So they got their priorities.
Oh, gender! Like my boys are in grade school now, and it's like, oh my god. It's there. I can feel it coming. The whole gender unicorn. Like
this is why you have to teach them beforehand. Hey, this is what they're gonna say. They're gonna say there's a million genders. It's like that's not true.
Yeah. It's hard though because you have the teachers
but
all day.
But you also have to tell them like, listen, say that you think it is true. Say that you think the teacher's right.
But that's so dishonest. Like that's
what the teachers are doing, indoctrinating your children with nonsense, isn't dishonest.
You need a society that prides honesty more than anything.
Yes.
If people were honest,
we have problems
the world would be so much better. Like if there wasn't this ridiculous need to lie all the time and like, oh my god.
Yeah. Have you seen the Chernobyl HBO series? Mm. It's really, it's like very sad and dark, but it's very good, very well done, very well acted. And the lesson to be learned from the whole Chernobyl disaster is that if you lie too much, like lies have their price. The truth will have its day, and there is there is a price to lies upon lies upon lies, which is how the Soviet system was run. And the Chernobyl wouldn't have happened if there wasn't everyone lying to each other.
What was the joke? It was like, you pretend to pay us and we pretend to work.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like it's the whole incentives thing. If you incentivize people to lie, they're going to, if that's the only way they can live, right? Like if you make it so that if they tell the truth, they are like taken away and murdered, you're going to have people that just lie.
Yeah,
all
which
the time.
we're getting to, because like
where we're at.
they're basically, we've gotten to the point where if you say there are only two genders, then that's hate speech, and like there is nothing that you shouldn't be subjected to. If you do hate speech, you're the worst person in the world.
Yeah, and like in England and stuff, they're really pushing hard with the whole legality of that stuff. They're
it's
jailing
scary,
people.
Man.
It's terrifying, and it's like it's coming here. Because we don't have the same protections that the U.S. has in terms of the First Amendment.
Yeah, they're already. I mean, we talked about this a month or two ago. The whole bill about like house arrest and like limiting your internet usage and alcohol consumption if they think you might say something offensive again. Like what?
It's a pre-crime.
Yeah, so we've got precogs.
Plus, you have the Google Home stuff just listening to you all the time. Your phone.
Yeah, the guy who got like locked out of his own house for being racist.
Is that what happened there?
I think it was like an Amazon thing, like the Alexa or whatever picked up like a racist comment, and then like his smart door lock like wouldn't open.
You negligent.
It was like, this is the dystopian, scary future we're hurtling towards.
That's terrifying. And they're the arbiters of what's racist.
And then they want to set up like these governments want to set up. Committees and ministries of truth to decide what's actually true. Like these are the last people we need deciding what's true.
It's wild that they tried to create something and they called it the Ministry of Truth. Didn't they do that?
No, I believe it was like the Department of Truth or something. It was basically
safety or something.
Yeah, it was like the exact same. Like, did you guys like read Orwell for notes?
You should probably watch 1984.
Suggestions? Like, ooh, we should do this.
They just watch it all day long on a loop, and they're just like, oh,
that's good. Yeah, like they're excited about it.
It's terrifying. So yeah, we're in this dystopian hellscape, but it's a lovely day outside.
It's a gorgeous day. The weather's amazing.
I don't have my kids right now. It feels great.
Gonna have a good dinner tonight.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
And we got NHL hockey starting soon. So
I think it already started.
Everything's coming up Millhouse. No, it's still preseason for the Leafs.
No, but not for the first game was yesterday.
No, they start on the 9th, I believe.
The Leafs do.
The Leafs.
I'm talking about the league.
Yeah, well, NHL hockey to me is the Leafs. Have you seen the flag behind you?
And your pictures. And your thing.
Yes. So
I love how it's like country Leafs.
Well, no, the room is supposed to be like a mix of like a bit of Canadiana stuff, but like lots of hockey, Canadian military history, flag. I want even more stuff. Like it's kind of sparse even still. Like I want like just more Canadiana stuff. Like I've got some of these books. Like look at this here. I got the Confederation, the Centennial Canada Centennial plate, 1867 and 1967. It's got all the provincial coat of arms there. And then I got all these like books by Canadian authors I want to like set up on a shelf.
Of colonizers all over your table. This is disgusting.
Look at these books. All these books.
As a non-binary person, I'm offended by this.
You got Eric Walters. This is a good Canadian author. Money Pit Mystery about Oak Island.
Sounds like a white nationalist.
Eric Wilson, another good Canadian author. This one's the Lost Treasure of Casa Loma. That's a fun one. Read that one as a kid.
Just throwing out Eric.
This one's The Freedom Convoy by Andrew Lawton.
Are you sure it's not by another Eric?
That's a recent one.
Andrew Lawton, I know that guy.
Yeah, he's running for member parliament, Conservative now, but he also is associated with the True North Centre, which I get lots of the news from. And this is from Nova Scotia. It's a book about like sea myths and tales, just cool stuff.
Kind of random.
There's a random collection of like Canadian books. I'm just gonna get more stuff for the room. Anyway. Thank you. I think we've had a great chat here today. Thanks for being here. A lot of fun. Sorry about the microphone issue for the first half of it. I thought I could fucking figure out audio once for one good podcast. I
plugged it in.
Especially after the last one. It's very embarrassing. I can't get the audio figured out. For fuck's sake.
We had it figured out.
We did have it figured out, and then there was a problem. The camera was installed, and I had to replug it in and fuck the whole thing up. But anyway, sorry. Thanks for listening, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. God bless Canada.
Go Leafs, go.
Go Leafs, go.